what is the agenda? So first of all, I'll present myself. Who am I and why did I search this topic? Some key definitions that I'm using. Who is the typical ART website visitor? What kind of information he or she is looking for? Some general key findings on the study I did. Some illustrated best practices. Illustrated bad practices. I hope the people I chose are not here. If they are, I'm willing to have your comments about my comments as well. Some conclusions, and then I'll come with a case study. So who am I? I'm Belgian. I grew up in Brussels and I now live in Australia, in Canberra. I grew up in a medical environment. My dad is specialized in internal medicine. I think this tremendously helped me in this because I know how you think. This is a bit maybe audacious to say that, but I think doctors have a certain way of thinking, and the fact that I have this background really helped me conducting this research. My education is in sales and marketing, so as Milton mentioned, I've got an MBA in international management marketing. I worked in sales and marketing for the last 15 years in different fields. In the banking, I worked in private banking, I worked in IT consulting, I worked in the retail markets, and now I'm working in the healthcare business. I am a current IVF patient, so that's probably what makes a difference with all the speakers so far. I'm probably the only one, so I'm doing a treatment right now for personal reason because my dad is a doctor and I want him to supervise. So I'm doing this treatment in Belgium at the Chirec Center. So Chirec is a group of 5 hospitals, 4 in Brussels and 1 outside Brussels. 2 elements also that I think are important to keep in mind about me and why I'm looking for so much information in the field. I developed diabetes type 1 5 years ago, and I lost my mom from an ovary cancer 5 years ago. So I can tell you, OBG for me was on my blacklist. I mean, I was scared to death about this subject. This doctor totally reconciled me with the profession, and if I was 10 years younger, I think I would start medical medicine and I would do ART for sure, because it's passionate. It's really passionate about it. Some key definitions. So first of all, international analysis. What do I mean by that? So what I did is I did an analysis of 90 fertility center websites worldwide, so in Europe. This is no discrimination. I'm sorry for the Asian people, the South American people, and the African people. I didn't have time to do that. So mainly, as you can see, it's Europe, USA, Canada, Australia, and Israel. Best practices, that's my definition. That's what I mean when I say I identified some best practices. Those are the techniques that were applied by the website that managed to catch my attention, made me further click, and most important, and I would like really to highlight this, is they generated a positive feeling. So one of the basic rules in marketing is, and it's in life, I would say in general, even you as doctor, know who your audience is. So who is the typical ART website visitor? So I'll quickly, I have identified 9 categories. Maybe you'll find more. I'll be very interested to hear about that. So you've got heterosexual women married or in a relationship, homosexual woman married or in a relationship, single woman, whether she's heterosexual or she's homosexual. The same with the men, so men heterosexual in a relationship, homosexual men. Single men, I mean, I don't know, probably some of you had the experience, but some homosexual would come to you and say, I want a baby. I know there's a famous presenter in France who did that. He went to the US and did surrogacy, and that was really publicized because that's quite a different mindset. You have friends and family of ART patients, very often forgotten about. Potential donors also, this is something you have to, male and female, you have to keep them in mind when you design your website. Journalists, researcher, medical students. So That's the main one. So something which I think is also very important in knowing who your audience is which generation does your audience belong to? So I identified 3 categories, and I think it's very important also when you design a website to keep that in mind. So you've got the baby boomers. So those are the ones born between 46 and 64. What are their characteristics? They're very open-minded, optimistic, ambitious. They're concerned about their job status and their social position. And very important, they respect seniority and hierarchy. My generation, Generation X, so those are the ones between 65 and 79, well-educated, individualistic, so this is typically the generation where the divorce starts a lot, so we had to raise ourselves and educate ourselves, so therefore I think we self-trained ourselves a lot. We're skeptical about authority. You know, this is May 68 effect in France, you know, the big revolution, so-called. So it's forbidden to forbid. That's why we don't want to hear about authority. We are not interested in corporate loyalty or status symbol. Typically, this is me. I mean, I have worked in different big companies, but as soon as I've learned the subject, I've covered what I wanted to learn from that company, I'm leaving, because there's no need for me. I just had what I wanted. Flexible, and then looking for balanced lifestyle. I would say compared to the baby boomers, I mean, we're also workaholic, but we want to have a good balance between leisure and work. And that's quite important to keep in mind. The famous Generation Y, the Facebook generation, so born between 80 and 96. The characteristics of that generation is that they are not brand loyal. I mean, just to give you, I mean, I've got a niece who's 15 years old. Today it's Abercrombie. I guarantee you 5 years from now, Abercrombie won't be the big name. And that's typical of this generation. They will support a brand, but it's not going to last forever. Where the previous generation, we are more, I would say the baby boomers are more loyal to brands. They're creative, innovative, audacious, visual, impatient. I presume, looking around, some of you have got kids in that generation. You know how they behave on the web. They don't find the information. I mean, the rule is 3 seconds. I think with Generation Y, it's less than 3 seconds. Just they will change. They will go to another website. They are immune to most traditional marketing and sales pitch. I would say in IVF and so on, I mean, spending lots of money for television campaign and stuff like that, I don't think that will make it. I mean, it's good. You have to have it because you still have patients in the second category. But for Generation Y, that's not how you're going to get their attention. They are very influenced, and a lot of people mentioned that today, by the opinions of their friends or of their followers on Twitter. And somehow they are very team-oriented. So they listen to what others have to say. So what I want to highlight is now, I would say, your core business is in the Generation X and Generation Y, but in a couple of years, I'll be menopaused. So this is your business. This is Generation Y that you have to learn, you have to know how they behave, and you have to address their expectation. Okay, what is the typical ART visitor's mindset? So I've identified different categories of visitor. So you have the visitor who's not yet in a treatment or with a partner not yet in a treatment. What is the characteristic of that visitor? Anxious, uncertain, curious, and insecure. So a communication tip, typically you have to inspire trust, support, empathy, experience, and success. Visitor in treatment, that's me. So emotionally fragile, anxious, and isolated. Once you're doing a treatment, I don't have to tell you that, but at least for, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks, you're totally out of the world because you have to do those injections and so on. So keep that in mind as well. So here again, support, understanding. So just tell them, I know you're going through a tough time, I know it's hard, but we are here to support you. And also, as I say, empathy. That's really a key word here for you to keep in mind. Friends and family, so those ones are most of the time forgotten. And I can talk about a personal case here, because in the last 9 months, I've come across a lot of doctors, a lot of patients, and a lot of people. I mean, I'm very straightforward, I'm very open. I'm not ashamed to tell the world I'm doing IVF, because I'm using the technique of my time to have a child. I've noticed, I was talking, it was 2 months ago, with a lady, 65, and I told her I was doing IVF, and she was asking me questions and questions and questions. Looking at her age, I thought, it's not probably for her. There's something else behind. So I said, okay, that's interesting. What do you want to know? And she said, listen, I want to understand, why is it so hard, IVF? I thought, oh my God, why is she asking that? And then I understood. She had a daughter who was a lesbian, 38 years old, who was in a couple with a 28 years old. You could see, I mean, discussing with her, she came from a very traditional, conservative background. I presume the fact that her daughter wanted a child as a lesbian was a bit taboo. And I can tell you, if she could, and she was very concerned about the well-being of her daughter, but she didn't dare to talk about it. So I can guarantee you, if she had found on the website of the hospital her daughter was dealing with a section about that, I think it would have helped a lot. So just a practical tip here. So as I said, address their needs with useful and relevant advices. Potential donors, they are often forgotten as well. So they don't care about treatment. They don't care about all the other things that your patient are looking for. What they want is practical information. Most likely legal. I mean, I know the law is very different from country to country. In Belgium, it's anonymous sperm donation, but in country where it is not, like in Switzerland, where at the age of 18, the kid can find who is the biological father. I mean, you have to have legal explanation about that and tell the donor, listen, this is not going to be, you don't have to support him financially. You have to address that, typically. Also, other kind of information you can provide is about the medical exam they will have to overcome, because I presume most of the clinics have got a series of medical exams they have to pass before becoming a donor. Just have information about that. So make sure you address this visitor category with very, very concrete information. Okay, what kind of information an ART visitor is typically looking for? So, presentation of the hospital, the infrastructure, and the team. Here I know there's a bit of a cultural controversy. As I said, I'm European, I come from Belgium, and I now live in Australia. Totally different mindset, totally different. Because I'm working now with an hospital in Belgium. Like in Australia, it's very common. I mean, you go to the doctor the first time, it's, hi Alex, this is Ron. You know, it's very direct. Don't do that in Europe. No way. It's Dr. XY and the patient is Mrs. Futeral. So I was telling those Belgian doctors, why don't you break the ice? Why don't you have information about who you are as a doctor? Like Michael, he likes mountain biking, or he likes skiing or scuba diving. That's great. I mean, I know for personal situation, I'm a scuba diver, and my OBG is a scuba diver. But I mean, the fact that we both have this passion in common is great. We talk, when I see her, I don't only talk about my treatment, I talk about my diving experience. So, I mean, this is cultural. Whether you can do it or not do it in your country, that's up to you, and that's up to your culture as well. So a lot of people mention about that. So statistics, success stories, and testimonial, very, very important. So I'm conducting a survey with this Belgian hospital right now about what they want to see. I've got like a set of questions, and this is really something like testimonial is very, very important. Of course, explanation on fertility problems and treatments. Here I have a little complement information to what Michael talked about, like injection. Very, very useful to have a video about injection, but here can I make a remark? Watch out, because I'm a European patient. Watch out when you ask the pharmaceutical company about a video, because I was watching a US video, and the packaging, I think it was Menopur, I think it's Menopur, the way the packaging is done and the way the little how do you call it, the medicine looks like is not the same in Europe and in America. So it's a bit confusing. So when you put that on your website, make sure you're addressing the right packaging for your country. Financial and legal aspects of ART, of course, that's quite obvious. Very important, the emotional roller coaster and ways to overcome that. A donor section for patients who are using third-party donation, but also for potential donors. Very, very important. Okay, what I call optional and positive differentiator, values and beliefs. I'm not religious whatsoever, but I can tell you, out of those 90 websites I visited, and I did page by page, video by video, I can tell you there were 3 of them who were talking about that, about what is the interpretation of ART in Judaism, in Christianism, in Protestant religion. I mean, maybe not all of you will agree with me, but I think it's a positive differentiator, because my first thinking was, Jesus, they are very open-minded, those people. So just a suggestion, if you can do it, do it. Again, optional and positive differentiator, a blog on a specific topic linked to infertility, so typically about stress management. Mobile application to help patients in their treatment. So, I mean, I'm not telling you you have to invest in developing those apps, because it can be quite expensive. They are already there. Go on iTunes and you will see. So those apps could be like the cycle calculator, or, for example, I mean, it has been shown that there is an impact between the BMI and IVF. So just offer a link to a BMI calculator that will help your patient. General key findings. Okay, those are really like it's very high level, because I've got a 200 pages study. I'm really trying to share with you what I found the most striking elements of my study. So first of all, geographical finding. I'm sorry to say for the European here in the room, but most European countries are lagging behind in their web communication. Are there any French here? No? Okay, I can tell them they are the last of the list. They are French people. I don't know why, if there's an explanation, but like France is really bad in communication. I'm a French speaker, so I'm like, wow, I couldn't believe it, but I mean, there's a lot to do there. A cultural finding, what I call the well-being approach and complementary therapies. So by that, I'm talking about acupuncture, osteopathy, nutritional advices, and so on. I know I'm not a doctor. I know there's no medical evidence about it. I know it. But believe me, when you're patient and you have those like relaxation techniques and so on, I'm pretty sure you've noticed it. If you've got a patient who's relaxed when you're doing the treatment, it's going to probably have more chance to work than if you have someone extremely stressed. So this was really offered by most Anglo-Saxon websites, not by the others. A behavioral finding, and that's really, really, if there's something I have to tell you that you have to think about when you go out of this room, is think about those things. There's very, very, very few websites addressing a clear and supportive message to men. That's a disaster. Poor guy, really, I feel sorry for you. To single parents, to same-sex parents, and to potential donors. Okay, now let's go to the practical thing. I hope I won't offend anyone here. I mean, this is my perception. This engaged me. If you have comments, feel free. Example of positive message. Okay, fertility problems are hard to solve, but rarely unsolvable. You can be certain that we are putting all our effort to assist you. Love to hear that, really do. One problem, many solutions. We will never give up our ambition to help you to become parents. Again, as a patient, perfect. Another one is our mission to help every one of our patients to have a baby in a setting filled with compassion, dignity, and respect. Very nice message. Dreams of a new life start here. So the goal is to provide the most advanced fertility treatment available in a caring, compassionate environment. And that's the part I love, where each patient is treated as an individual. So I'm not the Medicare number XXX, I'm an individual patient. That's good for me, it works. You're not alone, so that I'll come back to my conclusion. This is the U rule. So, I'll show example about that is when you build your website, address your audience, talk to them. So it's easy in English. In French, it's not that easy because are you going to use the tu, the vous? It's not easy, it's tricky. But in English, it's quite obvious. So use it. Be sure to use it. So here the message is, we want to reinforce that it's natural to have questions and it's reasonable to seek help if you think there's a chance your fertility may not be what it could be. Relax, we are here to help. What else do I want to hear? That's great. That's a great message. We will help you move forward your dream of becoming a parent. Example of engaging look and feel. So, sorry. Went too quick. No, that's not the one. So that's the first one. So here, that's the home page. For me, it's very attractive. Not too much information. It's soft, it's easy to read, and I know where I have to look for. So pretty good, works really well. That's probably one of my top 3. So this is, again, the You're Not Alone. This is the only website who's got a picture of a man. The only website I found out of my 90. Very interesting lesson there. So I think they understood what the patient is looking for, because you relate to that. Here, it's just, a smiley baby, little miracle happens, again. That's also one of my favorites. What I'd like to tell you is, don't think Caucasian. Your patient base is worldwide. And most of the sites I've visited is little blonde kids with blue eyes. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. There are other kids out there. This one is great because, as you can see, it looks probably it's a mix Asian and something, European or whatsoever. But that's your patient base. They're not all blonde with blue eyes. So think about that. Example of user-friendly navigation. I'm not talking about the color because I think they're terrible, but just looking at the toolbar on the top and on the 3 little different access, so CRM difference, medical expertise, patient support, that works well. Just for the anecdote, the kid there, the parents must make a fortune because this kid is on so many fertility websites, so many, it's just amazing. He's going to be a millionaire at 18, I guarantee. This one, as Ron said, the magical triangle works. This is too much. The right yellow, I wouldn't have put that because nobody is going to look there. But again, the navigation bar is pretty easy to move forward. Here again, easy, but it's blonde with blue eyes. Not my cup of tea, but it works. It works with a lot of people. Example of open-minded attitude. Very interesting here. I only found like 2 or 3 websites with a picture like that. 2 women. For a lesbian, this is going to work. I mean, I was talking to that with Belgian doctors. In this website, I mean, you know, it's a rotating picture, so it doesn't stay always on that picture. But you have to have those pictures. You have to have an Afro-American, Asian, whatever. As I say again, think worldwide, think globally. Look at me, I'm a Belgian in Australia who went to that website, so keep that in mind. Special section, as I said, dedicated to single and same-sex parents. So that's one of the few that I found where there's a positive message. This one is even better. Single parent, the message is, although making the decision to have a child on your own may be difficult, conceiving one doesn't have to be. We will do our best to make the process of becoming a parent on your own terms easy for you. I'm a single patient. Gee, I feel really empowered there. Humor to reduce the stress of ART. That was a very interesting one. That's a website in Switzerland. They've got a play, a comedy play, like a humoristic play about ART. I thought that was quite a good idea, and I was reading in the local newspaper comments about it. It's very positive as well. Just a comment here, you can see it's a European website. Because the way it's structured, the images, I mean, white coats, we know we're going to be treated by white coats. It's not necessary really to have that on your website. I wouldn't put it. But that's really typical European communication. Especially for men, one of the very few sections I found about that, it's pity the picture is a pregnant woman. I would have put personally a picture of a man, but at least they're really giving practical tips addressing or focusing on men. Useful tip to deal with the stress associated to ART. I mean, here they have got a section on the lower part here, tips for men, tips for women, and tips for relatives and friends. Very well done. I read them, very practical. Same with this one. This one I really like. They've got these topics. Maximize the 2-week pregnancy test waiting period. I don't have to tell you that, but probably most of your patient will tell you it's the worst. I mean, even though I've got a strong personality, I can tell you that this 2 weeks' time is a disaster, really hard. So what do? They give practical tips. Like what they say in this little article, they say, listen, during those 2 weeks, do as many things as you like with your partner. Go out, go to see a movie, go to the restaurant, do things that you really enjoy. And if it doesn't work, we have another tip to give you. Just write a diary with your emotion. Let it go. Try to really externalize your emotion. I mean, that works great. That's a very good tip. They've got another tip about nurturing your relationship during fertility treatment. Very important as well, because as someone mentioned, like what about sex relationship? What can you do? What can you not do? They give practical tips. Pregnancy loss, supporting your grief and loss journey. Also very interesting for patients going through that. Coping with other people's pregnancy, probably something that you have questions about. I mean, you're trying to get pregnant, all your friends around you are getting pregnant. What do you do? How do you cope with that? Then a last one, which is very interesting. I just want to be a dad, coping with couple infertility from a male's perspective. Very, very interesting. And as I say, one of the very few sites where they're talking masculine language. A special blog on special blog on fertility issue. So here they've got a special section about, as I say, sex and relationship. How do you cope with that during a treatment? Geez, it's too sensitive. This one is quite interesting. It's about social cryopreservation. So this is a blog about women in their 20s, 30s who know they are careers-oriented, who might not have a partner. And basically what the message is saying, you know you want to have a kid, but you don't have the partner, or you know you're too busy with your career, we've got a solution for you. You can do social cryopreservation. Also for people, for women who are doing chemotherapy, there's also like they're addressing their needs as well. Quite interesting. ART and religion. I'm not talking about the look. This is a disaster. Too much text. This is not following the web rules. But nevertheless, I read it all because it's really interesting. It's a site in France, one of the exceptions. And what they are doing is really trying to give an explanation in the different religions. So it's quite practical, quite interesting, and works really well. So here with Islam, Judaism. Really. Here the guy who's the head of this clinic, he says, how would you say, the management of ART shouldn't go against religion. So what he says literally is like, we're not wizard apprentice. We're just using the technology of our time, and we don't want to substitute ourselves to God's will. So quite an interesting message as well. Here is a website, again, one of the one I think is, they did a tremendous work here because understanding the patient mindset. So respecting your beliefs. They go pretty far in their, in their appreciation, because what they do is they have a possibility, let's say for Jewish patients, they can have what they call, I mean, it's quite ironic, kosher IVF. So basically, you can, they want to ensure you that they will respect Shabbat, if it can suit with your treatment, but they're trying their best to really respect your belief. Another section, the evolution of ART children. So, le devenir des. So basically, that's also something that, out of my survey that I'm conducting, this is something keep in mind. Have a section telling your patient that you're going to have a IVF kid, but this kid is not going to be different from other kids. I mean, there are accidents, there are problems. I mean, I don't know about surveys, I don't know about scientific, but just tell them, listen, this kid is going to be normal. He's not going to be retarded. He's not going to be less smart or whatsoever. Just mention about that. It's quite important. Okay, illustrated bad practice. That's what I call me, myself, and I. You see in the gray, that's the number of times the name of the doctor who's the head of that clinic appears. It's quite a lot. It's not necessary. Then you've got on the left, you see endangered species. I thought, ooh la, this doctor's got special patients there. What does that mean? He's got endangered patients? What does that mean is that he's probably extremely competent. I'm not saying, again, I'm not a doctor, but he's so competent that he has been called by several zoos to assist for IVF of orangutan or chimpanzee or gorilla. As a patient, it's not necessary for me to know that. That doesn't bring anything to the game. I mean, I'm not going to go there because he's done IVF to orangutan, not at all. So again, the gray number of times this appears, his name, so you can see it's a bit too much, I think, personally. Okay, just to change subject, how many of you know René Magritte, the painter? Okay, so René Magritte, you see the painting there. This is a Belgian very famous painter, surrealist painter, and he's very famous for two paintings. This one says, this is not a pipe, and there's another one which is called, this is not an apple. So he's really trying to provoke, he's part of a trend that wanted to provoke. And I just use this metaphor to say, okay, this is not an art gallery website, but it's an ART website. So as a patient, I mean, and the content of that website is pretty good, I must say. But if I see that, it doesn't talk to me. It doesn't bring anything related to IVF, to fertility or whatsoever. So probably not a good idea. Again, this is not an interior designer website, but it's an ART website. I see that, wow, this is nice furniture, very nice, very clean. There I think, oh, that's a landscape architect. No, 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 it's an ART website. Doesn't ring the bell to me, doesn't talk to my feelings. Sorry, but this doesn't talk to me as well. I'm sorry, I hope no one is offended, but okay, cow is important. It gives a positive message, not in this case. I mean, I just took one screenshot, the other screenshot where horses in paddocks and so on, doesn't talk to me. I mean, again, I want to remind you, when you design your website, think globally. That was done in a local, narrow-minded thinking. I'm sure it works for that area of the world. Probably some of you guessed where it was, but doesn't talk to me at all. Okay, this is not a geriatric website, but it's an ART website. Okay, I see that. I'm a patient. I'm thinking, is that a potential donor? Getting scared there, really getting scared. So this, again, it's not appealing. It's not generating positive feeling at all. On the contrary, it's scaring me to death. Okay, conclusion. Don't forget the U rule. So as I said, you remember when I showed those previous slides, try to address your patient with a direct message. I give you an example. What I'm saying is quite thought about. Look at Obama. What does he do? Are you in? Obama, Clooney, and you. An invitation you can't turn down. It works. If they use it, I'm sure Obama knows what he's doing. Okay, you're all doctor here, so you all know that we've got left brain, right brain. They work for different things. One is logical, one is emotional, creative, not creative. So when you design your website, make sure that the information you've got is easy to find, easy to understand, and relevant to the subject. No orangutan. Don't think about that. Okay, that's really my core value, and I would say my core, I don't like the term business, but that's what I'm doing. It's emotional marketing. So what you want to do when you develop your website is to give the feeling that there's a human being and not a machine at the other end of the connection. And very few websites manage to do that, very few. Your site should reflect your center's personality. Something I can tell you about is there's no point saying, I'm the best, I've got the best techniques, I've got the best settings when on your website. If the patient goes to your center and what she or he sees is not matching with the reality, you lose him. You do. You have to be honest. All of you have different centers in different parts of the world. You've got different values, different personality. I would suggest try to inspire that in your website. Give a bit of yourself when designing your websites. Your site should make the user experience pleasurable. I mean, again, if I type in this internal search engine of your website a word and I don't find it, and I have to click and find it myself, and I don't want to do that. It has to be obvious. 3-click maximum. Keep that in mind. Put yourself in the shoes of the patient when creating your communication strategy. And here I can give you an example because, as I say, I'm from a medical background. I've met a lot of OBGs. Keep one thing in mind. You, as a doctor, if I ask you what is IVF, you're going to tell me it's a medical procedure. It's a technique. Me, Alexandra, as a patient, what is IVF for me? It's my last chance to create a family. After that, it's adoption. Keep that in mind. It's a different way of talking to your patient. So a case study. So this is because I live in Australia, and when I did my survey, one of the websites I really enjoyed was this clinic. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take my phone, call them, and I want to understand what was their philosophy. How did they develop their website? So in February, I met with their community manager in Sydney. I went there and I had an interview with her, and very, very interesting. So what I can tell you, and I illustrate in a minute what I'm saying, when I went there in Sydney, I had a preconceived idea. I saw their website and I thought, I think it's going to look like that. because that's what the atmosphere of the website was about. So when I went there, 100% match. It was amazing. I thought, wow, they did a very good job. And I'll show you a picture of the place. The website was developed using focus group and persona. So focus group, what they did is, out of those 9 categories, they really interviewed they interviewed lesbian, they interviewed single women and so on. And that's how they developed their website. And even further than that, persona, what is persona? It's a technique in marketing. So when you're constructing or building a website, you have let's say 6, 7, or 8 typical scenario. Let's say Alexandra, 41, married, worked in marketing. Jonathan, 36, homosexual. You really have those typical characters. It's like an avatar. And you use it again and again when you're testing your website to make sure that your website navigation, your website information fulfill their expectation. Very, very important. The picture you saw about this guy holding this baby, all the pictures on the website are real patients. So they asked the approval of the patient, and they took those real patients. And you can see that because it's not like a George Clooney or whatever. You can relate to those people because they look like you and me. And I think it works great. It's really the way the picture were very professional, but the fact that they didn't take professional model, I think it works well. The content is updated weekly. They've got someone who's dedicated to that task. And according to me, they are already very good and very human in the way they address their patient base. But the idea is always to wonder about how to be better. And their next strategy is really to address those categories I mentioned about the men, single parents, and same-sex parents. So they're going to even improve the website as it is now. That's when you enter the practice. So you've got this place where you can relax, wait. You're waiting for your appointment, just take a little coffee, watch TV. So very friendly atmosphere. I should have taken picture of my hospital in Belgium. Totally different. But the difference is where I go in Belgium, it's a hospital, it's not a fertility center. Makes the whole difference. So for those of you who have the luxury to really have a separate facility, not in a hospital, try to make it as I would say as pleasant as possible. So they've got a special floor which they call Genea Holistic, and basically what they provide on that floor is everything for the well-being of the patient. So that's when you arrive very relaxed. Something they provide which I think is amazing, for every patient who's doing a pickup or a transfer, if she wants, after the treatment, before the treatment, according to her will, she can have acupuncture, she can have massage. I told my Belgian doctor I'm expecting her to do a massage next month when she'll do my pickup. We'll see if she does it. So here again, you've got a room very relaxing. You can relax with your partner, take it easy. The massage room is there. So those are the things that I've noticed. I hope this was helpful to you. So if you have got questions, need more information, and maybe think about your website, just for your information, this presentation, for those of you who are interested, is on my website, so medicalsafari.com. You can upload it.